We are live.
Welcome in to On the Beat Live. I'm your host, Tommy Ashley. That's Adam Smith. That's John Bowman. That's Ross Martin. And we're sponsored by Johnny T-Shirt and JohnnyT-Shirt.com. Ross, you're going to lead us and end us, so go ahead and lead us off. What's happening, my man?
What's up? Sorry. What's up? Yeah, last day. Here we go. Big show. I don't have much to say. There's not much news other than we spoke to the coordinators today. Justin McCoy's heading to Hawaii. What's the other news, guys?
Justin McCoy won the portal. I mean, gets to go live in Hawaii on Oahu for free and play a little basketball. I mean,
What a move.
can we agree that that's the win? He won the portal. Adam, what's the news, man? What's the news on your end?
This to me is a Ross Martin show. This is time to appreciate the young man. Almost 6 years in the game? Yeah, it's a Ross victory lap, as our guy Albert Tucci says. This is a swan song. It's going to fade off into the sunset. What was the Mike Tyson line? Off into oblivion.
Fade into oblivion.
But we could tell stories for the next hour. I don't know. I was trying to go through my head what I have that's fit for all audiences.
Adam's got the
It's
NC-17 rating stories.
I'm sure John has some good Ross memories, as they have been housemates, and Ross and John is one of the many guys and girls who have come up through the Inside Carolina ranks that Ross has tutored along the way and mentored and guided. And even though I'm old, he's done the same for me. He has held my hand in a lot of respects. I was frustrating him today when I couldn't get the tripod stuff to work. I'm not good at many things at all, and Ross is good at a lot of things. So
there you go. We'll tell all the stories next week.
I'm sure Tommy has some stories too. I mean, we can make this story time if you like, but we can talk UNC sports too, obviously.
I don't have a ton of stories. I mean, it's been interesting. The Atlanta story was pretty funny. That was an expensive meal, so I don't know if I blame you on that one, Ross. But anyway, let's talk a little bit. First half of the show, let's talk about the news.
Atlantis. I thought you said Atlanta.
I did too.
Atlantis.
Yeah,
Atlantis.
It's like, what do we do in Atlanta? Yeah.
But yeah, let's talk a little bit about news. I mean, a lot to talk about with the transfer portal. Sherelle's got that locked down. Since y'all were there today, let's talk about Mac Brown and the coordinators, or at least Lindsey and Chizik. Ross, what were your takeaways from Lindsey? I don't fancy you a huge Lindsey fan at this point. Maybe it's early, but I thought it was some interesting comments he made today about the team and about the offense.
I will say, look, I mean, I'm sure Lindsey's a great guy. I mean, who knows? He might be a great coordinator and great with quarterbacks. With the media, he leaves a little more to be desired, but that's not a knock to his coaching ability. That's a knock to what we desire as media folk. He kind of speaks. He says a lot without saying anything and speaks in generalities. But I mean, I don't really know what I learned about the. I mean, they got some good wide. I mean, they have these four. They have four wide receivers. They like. Andre Green's probably the fifth. The four are Kobe Paysauer, the two transfers, Nate McCollum and Devontae Walker, and the fourth is Gavin Blackwell. And they're trying to get six. I mean, Drake May, look, Chip Lindsey was handed the best quarterback in the country, who is probably the easiest to deal with, who is one of the smarter offensive quarterbacks in the country. Good dude. I mean, he is set up for success with this offense. And so we talk about Drake May, but he didn't really – I don't think he gave us any more glimpse into what we're going to get from him. I think it would be good to read Greg's article from a couple of weeks ago for more insight on Lindsey. He had one-on-one on him. Adam, what did you think about Chip Lindsey today? We got 5 practices left of spring practice. So we're 1/3 of the way through. Sorry, 2/3 of the way through.
Yeah, I mean, Chip Lindsey is not, God bless him, he's not a great storyteller. I don't know how well he'd do in the content producing game. But But I think Ross, that's how you feel when you're there. Like Ross said, he says a lot without speaks a lot without saying a lot. But I mean, he's new. He just got to UNC. So yeah, one of my big takeaways from Chip Lindsey today, sort of parsing through all the stuff that he did and did not say was, I kind of thought like in his own very understated way was calling out Andre Green Jr. Because he said, I mean, that's how I took it when he first said, hey, we've got 4 receivers and we want to get to 6. And we knew, we knew who the 4 were from having been to practice and been to those scrimmages, that the 4 that are sort of first up are Tez Walker, Kobe Paysour, Gavin Blackwell, and Nate McCollum. And when he said that, I was like, oh, so they don't think Andre Green is doing that great. And they don't think Doc Chapman is doing that great. And maybe they think Christian Hamilton, as Mac has said, the true freshman, is doing better than expected. So that's how I kind of took it. Now, Chip sort of backed off of that a little bit later because he made it seem like, I think he said, Ross, that he'd had some good practices recently. But that was sort of my big takeaway. One of the things I asked him was, what are you wanting? What are you telling Drake May? Like, what are the 3 things you tell him every day? I was just to get some sort of insight. And, he doesn't really give you much. It's not like he's mean about it, but it's just not, it's not like Mac. But you ask him something and he'll paint you a picture and take you back to 1987 and talk about Darryl Royal and Gene Stallings and whoever.
Look at that. Hold on a second. That is not me in the chat. Are you kidding me? Thank goodness this is Ross's last day. Look, do you know you have a stalker without knowing you have a stalker? Come on, man. Get out of here with that garbage. I'm going to sick
Gregory Hall over there.
I'm going to sick my investigator on you and dig up everything. That wasn't me, Ross. I'm right here. The Banhammer is active.
Oh, you're T. Ashley IC?
Yeah, that was not me. I didn't mean to hurt anybody
in here.
Yeah, Gregory, what's going on from the left coast?
Hey, I'll say right now what I deleted from my tweet. I had my tweets set up, and I showed John and Adam the drafts separately. We're in 2 different group chats with different friends. Look, I know I'm not for everybody. I am well aware that there's people that don't like me. But people that don't like me usually don't have a sense of humor or don't like the truth. And they struggle with that. They just don't like the intensity and bravado I bring to this game. And look, I mean, I'm trying to make it fun. I'm trying to make it interesting. If we had a bunch of boring people here, this is entertainment. Sports is entertainment. And if you just read off facts and it's boring, it's not fun. I mean, you pay for a subscription, you watch to be entertained. And I treat this, it's partially informative, but partially sports media is an entertainment business. Look at ESPN. What's the first word in ESPN stand for? Entertainment. So, I mean, I know a lot of people don't like me, but I lost some followers on Twitter already.
Oh,
but I mean, I had so many. It didn't really matter.
Low key brag. Hey, if you're following Ross, follow Adam. It's much more entertaining.
Ross, just calm down and take the high road on the way out here.
I thought this is what people want. People want the unfiltered version on the last show.
Okay, yeah, all right.
I kept it buttoned up on Twitter. I deleted. I didn't tweet that out. I didn't tweet out that one tweet I had.
You did say something similar to that. You said something about maybe it was on the message board. Hey, I get you. Look, I much rather have folks that stand up for what they believe in and say what they mean rather than say something in the shadows that's different in the light. So I totally get with that. But yeah, what does the P stand for in ESPN? John Thorpe asked. Anybody know?
Is it
properties?
Programming, I guess. Programming network. Who knows? Anyway, all right, let's get right into it. We talked about football. Let's talk about Chizik. Adam, do your news thing. What about Chizik? Because I got a question for Ross. Chizik is feeling himself a little bit. I think he knows they're going to be better this year. I think. Yeah, that's a good thing.
Right. And we got Sherrill in there. It's homecoming. It's just homecoming. You brought them all out, Ross. Did you Google that Entertainment and Sports Programming Network?
Yeah.
Yeah, Gene had some good things to say. I think I would recommend going to our YouTube channel and watching the Gene Chizik video. I thought he hit on a lot of different areas, and he talked about the impact Elijah Husey, the East Tennessee State transfer, is making in the secondary, and how Amari Gaynor, the Florida State transfer, is coming on. He's coming. He's sort of, Gene says he's attached to his hip right now, sort of trying to learn everything about being a jack. And, we got into, the D line, and Kamen Rucker continues to, it sounds like Kamen Rucker is having the best spring of anyone to me. Of course, the big dog got a question about Travis Shaw, his homeboy from Greensboro. But I thought Gene covered a lot of ground. I thought he was insightful. One of the things I do want to ask Gene, I guess the next time, is, how many snaps they've put on guys like Cedric Gray and Power Eccles last year, and how you try to alleviate that while not losing anything. And I know it's all about depth, but I thought Gene was good today. And I think that he feels like, and he said this, right? Hasn't he said that he feels like they're much further along than they were last spring? And I think he has a better sense of what he's got to work with and how this thing could develop.
Ross, you asked about Travis Shaw. I thought it was interesting that he totally dispelled the notion that Shaw may be a little soft, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Yeah, that was Adam question, right?
I asked about soft because we had heard that maybe he's a little soft sometimes. But
yeah, I think what that was interpreted as is that last year Travis would maybe sit out some reps or practices that he didn't go hard, or he didn't play every single practice that he could. And he's young. He was young, and that was part of the point that Chizik made. Like, it's time to grow up, and he's getting better, and he's realizing that. I don't know if it was a toughness thing, but more. And this is exactly what Chizik said. It's a mental thing for him. Taking a step from high school to college. And Travis, I mean, it's a recruitment I followed very closely. We're gonna have a special guest, guys. Don Callahan's coming on 9:35, so we have any recruiting or kind of personnel questions for Don. I covered Travis's recruitment, relatively closely. He was the man at Grimsley. I mean, he was, 5-star, everything. So the transition to being the man at high school to being a lowly true freshman is sometimes difficult. And I think this is a big year for Travis, and I think it's a big year for his NFL future. I think he's losing weight. I think he can be a force in the middle, and I think he'll split reps with Kevin Hester.
Yeah,
Kevin Hester. So, but I mean, Chizik said, man, he has everything you want out of an interior lineman.
And Chizik did provide some insight too on Tamari Fox. Ross had asked the question, and I thought it was a good one, that is Tamari Fox playing some power end? Because he's come off the edge before in different defenses. But Chizik said that he's an interior guy. It sounds like he could back up either Kevin Hester or Miles Murphy, but it doesn't sound like he's on the edge like Jahvaree Ritzie or Des Evans probably will be when he gets healthy. So I thought that was some good insight there. I thought Gene had a lot of good nuggets that you could take and learn from.
And I think Tamari Fox thing is huge. Like, this is a guy that was a starter in 21. He played a lot of snaps and starter reps in 21, and you're getting this guy back to go alongside Kamen Rucker, Miles Murphy, Des Evans, Jahvaree Ritzie, Travis Shaw. Like, you're adding a starter to the mix. So you're going to have, about 6 or 7 guys who have really, you can consider kind of, second, third year, fourth year players with the amount of reps they played. So I think Tamari Fox is a super interesting storyline to follow, because he was good when he played. And he is a senior now, 5th year senior. He's up there.
5th year. They could have used him last year, huh?
Yeah. Whatever he took, it was probably so stupid that they set him up for a whole year.
I do want to ask one big picture, because we know this is such an important spring. Where do you think UNC has gotten better at this spring? Like, what's one position group you think, okay, they have developed depth, or they've kind of increased and improved from where they were last season?
Can we know that yet? Adam, you're shaking your head.
I don't know.
Kind
I
of
mean,
like I am.
can I say corner? And they've lost Tony Grimes and Storm Duck? That'd be insane, wouldn't it?
If Huzzy is as good as everybody says he is.
Yeah, and I think Marcus Allen's going to be a pretty good player. You know, I mean, they obviously need some depth at corner. But you know,
It could be a addition by subtraction. I mean, who
yeah,
knows what was going on behind this? Who knows what was
Cavazos and what is it? The young kid Tayon Holloway, is that his name? I think is somebody they're high on too.
Who knows what was going behind the scenes with Grimes, and by all accounts, Duck was a good kid, but who knows what was going on there? I mean, there was some drama there. Certainly, when he sat out the state game, I believe.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Grimes. So who knows if that, losing, the 5-star guy is going to, and then bringing in probably an unranked Huzzy is going to improve your defensive back there. And you also have a new coach back there as well. I think defense has to take a step because who they lose? They lost Noah Taylor, Reva Hasek, who both were out for the last half of the season. They lost Tony Grimes, Cam Kelly, Storm Duck. So they lost some starters, but in reality, I'm not sure how much they really lost with all those players.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things you think about when the defense, but they can't be any worse statistically. I guess they can. They can go down to the complete bottom, but I think they'll be better. I just think it's interesting listening to Chizik in spring versus listening to him during the season. It's like a different guy. And of course, hope springs eternal, and everybody wins the offseason at Carolina. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I don't know if we can know the answer to that, John. And I don't think you know that until about halftime of Labor Day weekend in Charlotte, And if it's like the baseball game, Carolina's falling apart at the end of the baseball game. So maybe at some point they'll beat South Carolina up there. Anyway, what we got left.
What's the score?
It's 2-0 South Carolina. They scored 2 in the bottom of the 7th. They've got runners on 1st and 3rd with no outs in the bottom of the 8th. The bullpen can't get an out.
So the Tar Heels down to their last 3 outs, I take it, in terms of they need to get some runs, right?
Yeah, they've got the top of the 9th to hit, but right now they're looking at giving up some more. Pence and Mateus pitched great. Poston, Pry, Berkwich, and Peterson have not done well.
Adam, what's your plan for baseball coverage? At what point do you make your way over to Boschmer?
That's a great question. I mean, I'm down for whatever. I mean, Tommy and Matthew Clements are doing a great job with that stuff. But I mean, I'm down for whatever.
You come on over there. You getting on over there. You can get there midweek games. No, I love covering baseball, Adam, and I look forward to you going on the long road trips and going to Omaha.
Oh, Lord.
Because I can't see myself in Nebraska. It is Nebraska, right?
Have you been to Omaha, Adam?
I haven't. Kind of got a little close last year, but when they've gone before, I did not go. So my boss.
I think Greg's been at least once, right? I know he's been once.
It's quite an undertaking, Ross, because you can be out there like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can go days between games, right?
Well, you definitely go 1 day between games, but yeah, you could go 2 sometimes. So you're like out in Omaha, Nebraska in June. Ross, can you answer George Sawyer over there in the chat about can we get Ross silly drunk at a tailgate? I mean, inquiring minds want to know from our guy George Sawyer.
Part of my life is behind me. Hey,
you're going to Thailand. We might never see you again. Vietnam.
I might need any armed forces, special forces to come rescue me in a Thai jail. I'll be in a corner eating a bowl of rice.
Who are they going to trade for Ross Martin?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh boy.
We will have Tim Mulkey negotiate your release.
Oh my Atlanta.
God.
I will say, going back to baseball real quick, the good people who set up the buffet at the UNC baseball regional games are very excited because they're going to save a lot of money on their food budget with Ross not being there anymore. Ross is a known lover of a media buffet. I do have one basketball take.
Hey, what's the best kind of food? What's the best kind of food, John?
The best kind of food? Just
They had
overall?
Armadillo Grill last week.
Free food, John. That's what he's trying to tell you.
Oh,
Free food. Free food. It tastes so much better.
There's nothing like a baseball game at Boschmer in May or June, and Ross stops by there when he's on a run and just loads up, gets some food, watches a couple innings, then he's gone out into the night, you know?
They're like, who's that guy? I don't know. I didn't recognize him. Go, John. Get in here. Keep it on the rails.
I do have one basketball take that I want to throw out here. We're going to do a little basketball segment here before Don joins. I have been known to lead a few bandwagons over the years. I was number 1 on the Javonte Williams for Heisman bandwagon. So I am taking a spot at the top of a bandwagon. Again, it's basketball related. I watched Elliot Cadeau this past weekend at the Nationals event that he was at. My new take, what I believe with all my heart after watching him and his passing ability specifically, I think not only does Elliot Cadeau need to reclass to 2023, but I think he needs to be the starting point guard for UNC basketball next season because of the passing abilities that he brings. He would just inject so much into the offense in the half court. He would get the ball. He would get Armando the ball. You three, what do you think? Elliot Cadeau, starting point guard for next season.
Carolina
Well,
better
certainly
score
a take.
100 points.
Did
Did you see how those those guards on these teams in the tournament just wore out smaller guards? Unless your name's Marcus Knoll.
The fact that UNC might have RJ Davis next to Elliot Cadeau if they're starting backcourt defensively, we're not going to worry about that for now. But that is something that Hubert Davis will have to think through. But right now, for the bandwagon that I'm leading, that's my take.
Now, is there any new intel out there that they're going to – I mean, it sounds like they're both open to reclassifying, but the likelihood is up in the air, and it seems like maybe Cadeau more likely than Ian Jackson. Is that what the boards are saying?
That's how it seems. That's how it sounds.
I think it depends on who else they get. I don't know. Sherelle would be the perfect one to get on the show and answer that question.
I sent him a message. He said he has more scoop to write. He couldn't hop on.
So check out Sherelle's scoop on that. But, I know he's older and all, and he may, in fact, come to Carolina. But, I mean, watching these guards in this tournament, man, you better be able to play defense or you're going to get destroyed. And we saw RJ Davis struggle, and RJ will be a senior. So, but he's still going to be 5'11". So it'll be an interesting point. John, your bandwagon fandedness is noted, and we will check back in on that.
I'm leading the charge on this one. I mean, if you watched him in that tournament, just his ability to hit every pass, and I think too it is a big factor of watching UNC play the past 2 seasons without a true point guard, without someone who, Cadeau is getting comparisons right now to like Kendall Marshall. So that's really where a lot of this is coming from. He's also not a very good shooter. He's not a lights out shooter. So I think that, certainly plays into things as well. But just his creativity in the half court and running transition, I think he would be a huge boost to this North Carolina offense.
I'll say this about reclassifying. I mean, it gives – Cadeau, he might struggle next year, but then when he is a sophomore at UNC, if he were to reclassify, then he's ready to go. He's got all the freshman jitters out of him. He's stronger. He's more experienced. Who knows? It could affect him negatively. The fact that he gets, maybe he struggles as a freshman. There's that kind of angle. But you also could get a guy. Let's say if Jackson reclassifies, you get him for maybe 2 years, whereas maybe you only get him for 1 year before. Just from a fan perspective, some other things to consider. And Cadeau is older, right? He has been held back, I think, academically, or not academically, but like held back in grade school. And so he is of the age of a rising college freshman, I believe.
He turns 19 this fall, like August or September, I believe.
He's like Trimble's age right now.
Yeah. So
just a couple months younger than Trimble.
So physically, he would be freshman college ready, I guess.
I agree with John that the passing obviously stands out, but I don't know. But yeah, he does look like a very, very gifted passer, a pass first point guard. I don't know what would you, John, in that scenario, would you do? You would move RJ Davis off the ball?
That's right. I think you would put RJ Davis at the 2, and he would be the beneficiary of a lot of open three-pointers on the wing. And we know RJ Davis is a great shooter. I think one of the under reported on, not reported on, but under talked about storylines of the past season was, RJ was hurt. He had a finger injury for a large portion of this past season, and that really did impact his ability to shoot the ball. So, I did look this up as well. Cadeau is 6'1" in the 247 Sports database. RJ is a generous 5'10". Is that fair?
They list
What's
RJ at 6 foot 175. So
What's
All right.
Cadeau?
He's 6'1". 6'1".
Yeah,
I mean, he's a small guard. I mean,
Mhm.
you know,
Look
How
at
did he-
Proctor for Duke. What is he? 6'4", 6'5"?
listed 6'5".
What did Cadeau look like? How did he look small out there, John?
It's playing against high school kids, but this was like an elite tournament, and he looked the part. He was hitting every pass. He was just the creativity. Like UNC needs someone desperately who can not just execute their sets, but pass the ball and create shots for other players. So
I
I
think
think
the
that's
passing translates. It's just the
Mhm.
other parts of the game that you have to worry about.
Yeah.
But I do think the passing translates.
Got to be able to play defense. I look forward to Sherelle's scoop though, because there's a lot of news about potential. Harrison Ingram's in the portal now officially, so there's a lot of basketball news to talk about. It's just crazy to think that no more is a roster set until like May or even June these days. So
Yeah, Tate Frazier tweeted this out, friend of the program, Tate Frazier. But all of these way too early top 25 lists, like just don't even look at that. I mean, UNC should get an incomplete if they're ranked anywhere. I mean, we do not know what the UNC basketball roster will look like for next season. So I've seen any number of those lists, just basically ignore them until the rosters are finalized in like June or July.
I wouldn't rank them, regardless of who's the roster. I wouldn't rank them until they show they can play and play together in a while. But I'm just getting off my lawn and all that stuff. Ross, anything left basketball or football wise before Ross does the final Johnny T-shirt read of his career?
Have we got? Is there any other football? Any other basketball news?
Well, Jaden Bradley's in the portal from Alabama. I mean, he's a North Carolina kid.
Jaden Bradley.
Yeah, the Alabama guard. He's a North Carolina kid. You
got the Harrison Ingram guys in the portal from Stanford. UNC was in on him. I'm reading here that Will Shaver is going to unofficially visit UAB and Liberty and Belmont and Virginia.
And it sounds like Dontrez Styles is getting close to the decision. He's supposed to announce, I think, this coming weekend, if that's right. I think it's maybe Easter Sunday. I don't know.
I saw that he is considering East Carolina, NC State, and Georgetown.
Supposed to visit Georgetown this week, later, maybe a couple days.
What do y'all think about a Dontrez Styles to NC State move?
You'd see Dontrez Styles and Tyler Nickel a lot,
I'd say go wherever. I mean, he didn't play. It's not like he left because he's not like Jaden Bradley leaving. Didn't Jaden Bradley play a ton at Alabama? Dickinson from Michigan played a ton. I mean, Styles didn't get the opportunity. I mean, these guys are leaving that are starters on these teams. But, I mean, Styles can go wherever he works for him. Nickel the same. Nickel should have gone to Virginia Tech to start with because I like that coach up there. And I think they're a decent basketball team.
Ross, how would you feel about Hunter Dickinson joining his childhood friend Armando Bacot in Chapel Hill? We go a Twin Towers setup. Would you be for or against that? They played Team Takeover, where they played AAU together in.
I mean, I would be all for Hunter Dickinson if he wants to come here, and I don't know if they would they go back to two bigs, like two legit bigs, Tyler Zeller, John Henson style, or Deion Thompson, Tyler Hansbrough style. I don't know, but I mean, if he wants to come, he can come. That'd be rebounding wins games. So yeah, but I don't know if that's realistic.
I agree. John shaking his head no on that, by the way.
Yeah, I'm out on that one. You can own that one, Adam. You can be the bandwagon
No, I'm
driver
just
of
throwing that out there
one.
for discussion purposes. I don't think that's going to happen by any means. You saw the photos Armando posted of them like when they're like 13 years old, which is pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, I don't just win, right? So anyway, Ross, you're up. Johnny
All right,
T-shirt read.
We got Don Callahan coming in here. We'll do story time and whatever you want to talk about after this. But first, Johnny T-shirt, johnnytshirt.com, your one-stop shop for all your UNC apparel needs. Right on Franklin Street and online at johnnytshirt.com. Remember, all Inside Carolina subscribers get 10% off with the code found on premium message boards. Sweatshirts, T-shirts, jerseys, hats, anything you need. Johnny T-shirt, johnnytshirt.com. We appreciate their support of the Inside Carolina podcasts and podcast network. If you're going to get UNC stuff, make sure it's Johnny T-shirt. Tell them IC sent you. Use the promo code and get all your stuff ready. And football season, it's getting close. So get ready. Johnny T-shirt, johnnytshirt.com. National ads coming, and we'll be right back with more On the Beat with Don Callahan. Let me send Don the link, and we'll get Donnie Scoops in here shortly. We'll be right back.
All right, folks, 9:32, and I do that so John Siegley will know when to cut the ad. 9:32 on the East Coast. It's On the Beat Live. Portal needs, and the beat goes on. The beat goes on because Ross Martin is leaving us. First, Jaden Davis, isn't it Jaden Davis, goes to Michigan from Charlotte, and now Ross is also leaving for Michigan after trips to, I guess, East Asia. Is that where Thailand, Vietnam, and all those countries are? No.
Yeah, I think Southeast Asia.
Asia.
I'm going to the Masters on Friday.
How'd you swing that? Who hooked you up there?
I have a friend who listens to the podcast, but will not reveal his name. Very modest individual with Masters tickets connections. And then I will go. Then Tuesday, I fly to San Francisco. Here comes Don. Fly to San Francisco for a day. And then I am en route to Taiwan. And I'm en route to Thailand, Bangkok, Chiang Mai, the islands, Phuket, Vietnam, Hanoi, Halong Bay, all this stuff. What's the background noise there, Don?
Yeah, Don, can you turn the TV down for us, brother?
God, I'm trying to watch the Phillies game, and Ross asked me to come on. Hold on 1 second.
Hey, I said you didn't have to come on. We got Don Callahan here. And then I'm going to Columbia for a week in May, and then back to Chapel Hill, and I moved to Ann Arbor in mid to late July for a year. And then be back in Chapel Hill or Durham or somewhere in Chapel Hill, somewhere around North Carolina next 2024, August 2024. That's the plan. 1 year in 1 year in Ann Arbor.
Why the trip across the ocean to the other side of the world? What you doing there?
I've always wanted to go to Southeast Asia. I love Thai food. I love Vietnamese food. I think it's really cheap once you get there. Flights within the country are $50. Hotels, hostels are $15, $20. The food's cheap. It's a completely different world. I've never been to Asia, and there's only so many times when you can take time off work and you don't have kids, you're not married, and this is time to do it. I don't know how many more, there's not many more times you'll have this kind of gap. So I've wanted to always do it. And so I'm going with my buddy Chad. Now, Chad is my most wild friend. Some people call me their most wild friend. He is my most wild friend. And Chad, so you can just imagine.
Chad could not be a better name for your best friend.
He's a Ross.
Chill ass dude. And we went to Croatia together and Ireland. And it was so funny because all the, Irish girls and Scottish girls and Australian and English people, they always, when they hear the name Chad, it's such an American name. It's like the classic American TV bro name. So that was always a running joke because he would say like, yeah, we're from America. And my name is Chad. And it was just perfect because I don't think that's a name anywhere else. Whereas like John, Adam, Thomas, Ross, they're kind of European-ish names, I imagine. I'm not sure if Don is a European name. Don's a Philadelphia name.
Get in here, Donatello.
Yeah, so one, I thought the whole point of us using these mics was so that you couldn't hear the background noise. So I'm pretty disappointed in that. I've been using this for years thinking that that's why we had to have these stupid things on our head. The other,
can you turn a light on by
oh,
curiosity?
God, you guys. I mean, do you know? I mean, I'm off. I'm coming on my off time. You know what I mean?
Oh,
All these requests, like
read John's shirt right there. There is no off /
Don, do you spend every night in the man tower? Like, are you just up there from 7 p.m. until you go to bed?
It depends. Like last night, I was able to get in and get the Phillies game on before my wife did, but I lost that battle tonight. So up in the man tower it is.
But some nights you get Planet Fitness too. Don't forget.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So
we got a squat rack. Yeah, we got a squat rack request. So why do I picture you, Don, up there with what's the little guy from Lord of the Rings? The Smeagol guy, whatever his name. There it is, Gollum. Why would I picture you up in your man tower like that with the lights off every night?
I mean, what do you need the lights on for when you have the TVs on? So
now,
you know,
John, did you sleep up there once?
Wait a minute.
I did not.
You broke up.
He just muted himself.
You muted yourself.
He broke it.
He broke it. That's the story.
These mics.
Did I tell you the story about?
I'm back. I'm back.
Ooh,
I think that was Ben pulling the mic before I said something regrettable there.
Did you ever sleep up in the man tower?
No, but I did spend the night at Don's house for signing day.
Where did you sleep though?
Where did you sleep though?
I think in one of the guest rooms in the.
And where did Ross sleep?
It's getting better, folks.
Maybe I've slept 2 nights. Spent 2 nights in Don's house.
I'm pretty sure one of you had to sleep in the man tower. The other, I only have one guest bedroom, and I have 2 rooms for my kids.
Who slept with the cats? Don's a cat person.
The cats sleep wherever they want.
This is unbelievable.
Anyway, hey Don, any recruiting stuff? Let's get a quick recruiting segment here. We got you.
Hey,
here.
we had a commitment today. Yeah, y'all go full scoop. Emergency scoop podcast.
Well, hold on. I got a question about your trip real quick. I didn't get to ask earlier. Are you afraid to be kidnapped?
No.
No, not at all. Not even like a little bit.
I'm a little. There is a little fear of late at night, just some misunderstanding, some language barrier issues, and people try to take advantage of Americans with money. I think they target tourists. I'm a little. That's one thing I'm concerned and weary.
Do you think that we could, like, let's say hypothetically, you do get kidnapped and there is ransom? Do you think that the IC community could get together and fund a GoFundMe for the ransom to get you released?
Yeah, I think.
Do you think you're that liked?
Everyone can. Everyone contributes. Their $10 subscriber fee, and if we have enough subscribers, where that fund will send to the Taiwan, the Thailand president to get me out of jail. Y'all guys are so scared of travel. Like,
who's y'all? No.
I definitely am.
Those people. Don doesn't come out of the tower.
Well, if I'm afraid I'm going to get kidnapped and sold on the sex slave market, and I just
they don't. They don't.
Once you're on that track, they're never going to find you, and
Yeah. All right, Don.
Y'all go full scoop mode.
Okay, quickly here. Sorry, I feel like Adam's just sitting back and watching.
No, I'm great.
We have an On the Beat coming out tomorrow. We recorded on Monday, so we'll have another kind of. Another scoop on Wednesday. We talk a lot of recruiting. We also do stuff about me leaving Inside Carolina. But Don, we had a commitment today.
We did.
So we don't have to record another part. Why don't you just take the reins there? UNC now has 4 offensive line commitments, adding another one today.
Yes, Aiden Banfield from Mill Creek High School, which is just outside of Atlanta. So that gives North Carolina 4. They're going to still continue to recruit offensive linemen, but they'll be very, very selective if they add a 5th one.
What's this guy's deal? Where he's from Georgia?
He's from Georgia. His mom actually graduated from UNC. That obviously was a huge pull for him. And then we'll have a Q&A up tomorrow. But in it, he talks about how he just felt the feeling once he got on campus when he visited back in January, which is also when they offered him. And this past or 2 weekends ago when he visited, just kind of sealed the deal for him. He was looking at some other schools like NC State and Duke. I think Vanderbilt was in there also. But this was really for a while there, North Carolina kind of competing with itself just because of some of the advantages that they had.
Let me ask you a question, Don, about that. We're not hearing the highly ranked 5-star top 100.
Before Tommy, where'd you get that shirt?
Dude, I've had this shirt since the beginning.
Don's is electric today.
Man, can you stay focused? This is going to be a problem.
Where do I get that shirt?
You're going to have to fight me for it because it's the only one in existence,
I
think.
Mm.
I think I'll give it to you. So it's probably got some old food on it.
I want to hear Tommy's question. I think it's going to be a good one.
Yes. What should Carolina fans be concerned, or is it an issue, or whatever you want to call it, that we're not hearing the big 5-star top 100 guys mentioning North Carolina football anymore, like was going on there for a little while?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, you don't want to 100% just go off of rankings and ratings and all that sort of stuff and recruit just purely off of that. But anybody who's studied this stuff, researched this stuff, looked at this stuff over the 20 years that we have following football recruiting, it's basically a somewhat efficient market, meaning that if you're a 5-star, you're much more likely to find success on the football field in college and beyond than if you're a 3-star. Same thing with the 4-stars. Obviously, there are exceptions. There are tons of exceptions. But and I'm not saying this is going to happen with North Carolina, but if you sign 25 3-stars, not all of them are going to hit, and a very small percentage of them are going to hit. So yes, it is concerning that they're no longer battling it out with Clemson and Georgia all the time for recruits, and the guys that they're signing are 3-star sort of guys. And really, there have been times where the first few commitments are 3-stars, but UNC was in it really heavy with a bunch of 4-stars, and it felt pretty promising with a lot of them. There are some, Alex Taylor, I think North Carolina has a great chance with, and there's a couple of others, but it's not like it was the last couple of years. So recruiting definitely has dipped by every measure you can imagine. I know that some of the Sunshine Pumpers on IC have their excuses for just about everything on it, but if you're looking at this unbiasedly, things have definitely dropped with the past 2 classes.
What do you say to fans who are worried about recruiting, UNC's recruiting?
Oh man, what do I say? What can I say? I think I think like Alex Taylor, for example, I brought up his name. A lot of people think that Clemson is going to be his destination. I don't think that is ultimately what's going to happen with him. So I think there are some promising situations, but I don't know. I really don't know what I would tell someone. Maybe the coaches definitely are doing their own evaluations, and maybe a couple of these guys are going to play better. There's some, the Daniel Anderson kid who committed on Friday. You look at his film; it's very, very impressive. And obviously, if you look at his measurables, that's why a lot of the other Power 5 schools aren't recruiting him. They're scared off by that. Some schools just won't recruit a kid if they don't meet certain measurements. And so he could, he's going to be a really good college player. So there are situations like that. And the thing to remember also, I guess, is that the rankings are based on transferring it to the NFL draft. And the NFL doesn't recruit 6'2" edge rushers, for the most part. So, but those sort of guys do have good careers. There's a lot of guys who had really good careers, were 3-4-year starters, all ACC players, but weren't drafted. But they were very good players for North Carolina. So there is a little bit of that too.
Let me throw up a question right here. Brent Anthony, as a follow-up to what I asked, is the lack of 5-star talent being heard about because of previous season results and the shine off Mac? Don, you said that one season doesn't necessarily affect it immediately. It's usually a class or so down the road, right?
So it's yes, more or less. But I think we have two. I know North Carolina won 9 games last year, but I mean, you guys felt it throughout the entire season. Even when North Carolina was undefeated, it didn't feel like an undefeated season. And I think because a lot of people saw what was going on the football field, saw that who North Carolina was beating, and kind of felt like, it was kind of a ready to fall apart. And that's what it did ultimately once they started playing some better teams and start playing some defensive coordinators that were able to kind of pick apart the offense a little bit and slow it down a little bit. And so I think that, it didn't feel like a great season last year. And so last year and the year before that, where you ended with the South Carolina bowl game, was a terrible way to end it. And so I think, after you're preaching North Carolina is going to be this, and you show some promise early on, and I think some of that actually hurt, as strange as it sounds, because you set the bar so high, and then you're just kind of falling down. So yeah, I mean, North Carolina has to do it on the football field this season to kind of help a little bit.
All right, let me. Oh yeah, go ahead and show that, John.
Speaking of recruiting rankings, Don, I want you to take a look at this. We have Ross Martin at the top of the 247 Sports transfer portal. Don, I want you to break down Ross as if he was a high school recruit and kind of walk me through your scouting report there.
Well, as Ross likes me to say, he's tall and long, so you start off there, and he runs every day. So I'm assuming he has some speed. Or are you running yet?
Oh yeah, but I'm very slow.
Very slow. Okay. All right. So that's a negative right there. I heard he's not coachable and that he's not a good teammate. So, I mean,
I'm a great teammate, great leader.
The intangibles I don't believe are there.
High motor.
Any injury concerns about the shoulder? I would be concerned, I don't know.
You're going to need your staff to look at isn't it the pectoral?
Yeah, I tore my pec in July 2nd.
Ross,
what position would I play?
Think about the flexibility involved of the swimming. Former swimmer.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Would not be receiver, judging from the Jugs camera action we got a couple years back.
Yeah, what position? I mean, because I would go, that's what I thought, receiver. But you tell me he has no hands. I thought
he could great take hand-eye coordination.
I figured you could take the top off the defense.
No, I'd be a tight end or defensive end.
Okay.
6'5",
coming off the edge.
I get about 260. I could probably put on 50 pounds.
Okay.
All right.
260.
Let me ask a question that I heard. It may have been on a Ross tweet or something. Don, did Ross outscoop you when he worked for another establishment on the recruiting trail? And could you tell us about that story?
This is Ross's night. So if Ross wants to think that he outscooped me, then I can allow it for one night.
All right, let's get story time, Don. We'll get Don out of here. Don, you got a couple stories or anything you want to say? Let him get back to the Phillies game.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's not a whole lot. I mean, you know how it is. I mean, we mostly just talk through text or Slack or on the podcast.
Don, what would you say your first impression of Ross was, and compare it to now here, now that you know him?
So
the first impression of Ross can be jarring for some, I would say.
Yeah. So I had to really think really hard to try to remember when I first saw Ross. Mm-hmm. And I believe it was so Ross, you might be able to help me with this. I believe that it was at one of those, like a Greensboro scrimmage that Fedora would put on. And this goofy guy come up to me asking me questions. I'm like, who is this guy? And I remember, I think Deanna was working with IC at the time. And she's like, this creepy dude came up to me and asked a bunch of questions.
Yeah, right.
You wanted to get the roast.
I think that was at Grimsley. Before it actually had moved to Chapel Hill, I think I came in town for a scrimmage because I was covering UNC. It was weird. I was kind of covering them part-time from Nashville. That was Buck. I think that's when Buck said he met me too.
Okay.
I remember I
Alternative.
met you at the Hickory Tavern, or was that where it was when we were having the bash or whatever we'd have.
Yeah,
We
Ross
put
used to
on that
come when he
thing.
didn't work for IC.
I know, it was like, who's this guy eating our food? And Mike Ingersoll was like, who is that guy? And I was,
Forgot about that. I did come when I got invited though.
What is it? What is it about you getting the free food like at the baseball game? That's what I remember first. Adam, come on, buddy. Y'all are best friends. Let's tell a few stories. We got a couple more minutes.
I mean, I don't want to I could go the rest of the night. I don't want Don to be sitting there,
Hey, I'm good. I can see the Phillies game.
Something.
They did allow a run, but it's in the ninth inning.
Go ahead, Adam.
Well, I mean, I got stories for days. I mean,
when was the first time we met?
The first thing Ross ever said to me was we were sitting beside each other at a UNC basketball game. What year would it have been, Ross?
2015. Yeah.
So 8 years ago, we were sitting side by side. Ross sees me. I mean, I'm a big time nerd. I take a lot of notes on my notepad. I've always done that. That's how I was taught. And I am scribbling down everything that happens, every shot, every missed shot. And Ross looks at me, in only the way that he can, maybe a little dismissively, but he was also curious. And he says, they got all that on the internet. And he's right. He's talking about live stats, like stat broadcasts that you can follow around. And they do have all of that. He was absolutely right. And that was shortly followed by him asking what my handle was on Twitter. And he was hilarious. I mean, there's no way you couldn't love him, and he's giving me this, I wish you could see, if you could see it, he had his finger out and he was like, giving me this very demonstrative, and he hits the button. I just followed you. So we quickly became friends. And I mean, we have just been, Ross, all over the place. The Final Fours. I mean, the travel has been great. I will say this. I mean, I know people think that Ross is somewhat insane. We have been so many places together, and he has just basically organized the entire trips. The eating, where we're going. He always knows the best places to find great deals and fun stuff to do. I mean, he does, like, we've been all over the place, and he does all that every time we go. We have eaten at some very interesting spots. But I have loved every minute of it. I don't know why I was thinking about it. I was talking to him today when we were at football, and I was thinking about the 2017 Final Four when Carolina won it all when they beat Gonzaga. We were staying in an Embassy Suites in Phoenix. And that is another thing about Ross. He and I, when I worked in the newspaper business and the money was very, very tight, trying to stretch a buck, he would willingly stay with me. We would split a room.
Whoa, hey now.
And and he didn't have to do that. And he would do that out of the kindness of his heart. And that went a very long way with my old company that you could split the rooms and split the travel. We would drive together places. So that was awesome. But I've got to
tell the story about the breakfast buffet there at that hotel.
Oh, in Phoenix, they had
with the coaches talking, Shammond Williams.
I mean, the Final Four is just like a trip into the Twilight Zone. Yeah, we would go down to that breakfast buffet every morning, and we would load the heck up. I mean, no one can put down food like Ross. No one can put down food, and we did. We would see with Shammond Williams. It would be a who's who. When you go to the Final Four, you can. You walk around the corner and you see some coach for DePaul eating a sub, like it's just a wild sort of scene, but that was awesome. You know what I was thinking about, Ross, that was sort of a quintessential Ross thing was when football played at UVA this year. And if you just think about that day, Ross was up very early. He was on a run, and I think he was hiking or walking, and he may have gotten in trouble over at Monticello. I think he got ran off by security, and this was like 8 a.m.
This is Thomas Jefferson's house and grave site. I saw his grave, and I wasn't supposed to go there, and security got me. It's like 8 a.m.
We're in a football game that day. Ross is already. I mean, I'm telling you, 7 a.m. He's already gotten somewhat of a trouble. He was investigating it. So it's a noon kickoff. We're at an Airbnb that he got. He hooked the whole thing up. He fixed me a wonderful breakfast that day too. It was delicious. So we're going over to cover UNC and UVA. Well, we realized on the way over there, somehow we've screwed up the parking. I won't say how we screwed up the parking. I'm not going to implicate anybody, but we screwed up the parking, and we don't have the parking pass that we need, and we're not sure where it is. So we end up having to park at John Paul Jones Arena where UVA plays basketball. It's about a mile from Scott Stadium where they play football. It's not what we wanted to do. Well, we end up walking that mile. And on the way, and it sucked a little bit because we're getting a little sweaty. I'm getting a little hyper that we're not going to be there in time for me to do what I need to do. We are seeing sort of a line of people that recognize Ross because he's so recognizable. You know, we're walking past tailgates. They're shouting us out. We're seeing dudes, you know, in the middle of parking lots. And it was kind of like,
Taking off the shirts.
Ross Martin experience. We sort of screwed up the parking, but we found a place. We're walking a damn mile to get to the literal mile to get to the football stadium. But along the way, you know, might as well be high-fiving guys like Forrest Gump or something, you know? I thought that was a very G-rated Ross experience. We saw like all these Carolina fans on the way in, they were yelling at Ross because they know him.
Yeah, Adam and I have driven together to Greenville in 2017. We've flown together, and we've stayed in the same hotel room. I think in the 17 run, and they lost. We went to Kansas City. That was 19. Yeah, I remember we went to Kansas City, birthplace of ribs and barbecue, and we ate at a Vietnamese restaurant and a Mexican taco joint in a shopping center. I mean, these could not be bigger holes in the wall, but that was great. That was kind of a weird trip because they lost the first game. It was the Sweet 16, right?
Mm-hmm. Lost
the first game. Weather was weird.
That reminds me of a good one. Do you remember
Ross? UVA. We watched the Kihei Clark pass when UVA beat Purdue. We watched that together, Ross, when Kihei was like a freshman. It seems so long ago, but we watched that.
This is a good story. Sorry, John. We were there when Virginia lost to UMBC, and I was drinking beers. We had finished our work. Did UNC play that same Charlotte first round, right?
Yeah. They played in the afternoon.
Yeah, so we covered UNC, got back. I was popping some beers in the hotel room, about to go out, and I was like, shit. Virginia's losing to UMBC, and it's like 20 points, 25 points. Adam comes back, and I'm like, dude, we got to go back to the arena. And you had it right. And so I was like, dude, let's go back. And, I mean, that was the biggest upset tournament history, and you had to end up writing because you were kind of writing for the USA Today then. Obviously, I didn't have to write. I went back and drank beers with Mark Armstrong and Mike Solarte at the bar.
But it was a good call by you.
Because we were in the building for that.
Should we go back? We'd been there all day. And sure enough, we turned around and went back, and damn, we were there for that. I mean, Ross, we were in the UMBC locker room. You remember?
Yeah. I kind of took a back seat because I was like, I'm not really covering this, but yeah, it was crazy. All right, go ahead, John.
That reminds me of a good road trip story. So it was me, you, and Evan Cronus. Do you remember that trip? We traveled to Tennessee. Tennessee is a sneaky long drive. You think on a map, it'll be pretty quick, but it's like somehow 7 hours or something. So Ross is driving, and for some reason, Ross decides that every time the car stops, he needs to get out and do push-ups or sit-ups. So anytime we're at a gas station, we're at a rest stop, me and Evan are just standing there embarrassed. Ross is like, knocking out push-ups like he's a bodybuilder or something. And I think your only explanation, Ross, was just something that you need to work off the calories or get your exercise in for the day. But I think that's a quintessential Ross right there. He's just pumping out push-ups at a 7-Eleven in rural Tennessee.
That was a good trip.
I bet John has a lot of really good stories because you guys used to live together.
Well, first of all, John. John was a student. And we're kind of, I guess, essentially worked under. I mean, he wasn't my intern, but I was essentially his superior for 2 years, right? And then I was John. How would you say? I wasn't your boss, but
pretty much.
I could tell you, hey, let's do. John was a great employee, and then he was still 2 years. John was one of the best Inside Carolina employees ever. And we did the Facebook Lives. Remember that, John?
Mm-hmm.
And then
right.
Stayed friends, played basketball, and then during COVID, John moved in with me.
Not only that, I was like Mary and Joseph. I was a man without a room in the inn, It was the middle of COVID. I had nowhere to go. And I
Jesus.
started desperately calling people, and Ross gave me a room in, it was about the same as living out in the stables, his house, the room that I had there. But he let me in, and I stayed there for about 3 months, and it was a great experience living
Can I
with
tell
him.
the COVID story?
Yeah, this is a good one.
All right. So John was mapping out how Trump got COVID on my whiteboard right here. This is right here.
Yeah.
As I dropped my phone, he was mapping out like who was a super spreader at the Trump event. Because remember, Trump got it, and like everyone in Trump's party got it. So he was mapping out. It was pretty funny. And then 3 days later, John comes back from a trip to Charlotte, and John gets COVID. And I'm sitting on the toilet in my bathroom, and John's in his room, and he texts me and goes, "We got a situation. I have COVID." And this was early on. It was pretty early on, right, John? Like this is when COVID
October
was like,
2020. It was bad. It was scary.
yeah, this is when COVID was still kind of scary. We didn't really know everything. And John's like, "All right, this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna book a hotel, and I'm gonna sneak out the window as to not infect." He always would make fun of my age, so he would say, "As to not infect the elderly." So John, I think he just snuck out the window with all his stuff and booked a hotel. And I eventually was going somewhere, so he moved back in. And then it was kind of a funny COVID era story there.
I escaped out of the window using your yoga mat to protect me because I was going to cut myself on the window, the shards of glass or whatever. And you were most upset
broke
about
the
the
window?
yoga mat. No, I lifted it up, but it was dangerous, and I put the yoga mat to protect my stomach. Ross was most concerned about the yoga mat. He wasn't worried about me or my COVID. He was like, "Why did you ruin my yoga mat putting it
sounds like
outside the
Ross.
window?"
We've
It's an
got a
expensive-
situation.
Expensive yoga mat that I did not buy. That's another story.
Let me let me throw. We could go on forever. Let me ask you this because I want to at least round it back into the ballpark before we get called by the boss. Ross,
Oh yeah, here we go.
answer this question from George Jenkins because this is pretty cool. I mean, when you think about all the stuff that we are lucky enough to get to do, who's your favorite coach and/or player to interact with?
I mean, Roy Williams is a clear answer there. I mean, it is what an honor to and privilege to cover Roy. Legend, Hall of Famer, one of the best coaches in college basketball history. Story time on Fridays before games. He was great, and I ran into him outside Madison Square Garden in New York this year, and took a photo with him, and he knew who I was and everything. So that's great. But I would say, I mean, football is unique in the fact that you kind of get to know these coaches a little bit more, especially if you cover some recruiting and like you kind of are there for different events. Shout out Gunnar Brewer. I always liked working with Gunnar Brewer. Jay Bateman and Phil Longo, I've become relatively, I would say, decent friends with. I'm not sure how they would phrase it, but I'm friendly with Jay Bateman and Phil Longo. I would say that Mac's been great. Mac is great to deal with. He's great. And Larry was fine. I have no qualms against Larry Fedora, but those names come to mind. I'm trying to think of anyone else. And then player, Armando Bacot's a favorite. That might be some recency bias, but he is funny. He gets it. He jokes around. I would say the 2015 football team had some great guys. Jeff Schottmer and Shaquille Rashad. I mean, I would consider them friends. Of course, I did a show with Jeff Schottmer. I talked to him on the phone today, actually. And Shaquille's great. Marquise Williams, I mean, he's always tweeting at me, but I mean, he was great to cover. Ryan Switzer, that whole team had a bunch of characters. That was a great team. And because of all that senior leadership. And yeah, I would say those are the ones that stick out. I mean, Theo Pinson was fun.
Who was the biggest butthole you dealt with? It doesn't have to be Carolina.
Whoa.
I mean, I don't know.
Because you don't take it seriously. Some people get in their feelings if somebody's a jerk to them. Like Elko was a little bit difficult.
Yeah, I mean, the Elko thing got blown out. I think maybe some of the football assistants don't. I don't know if they like me or not. I don't know.
I do want to say this.
Don's smiling because I think Don knows who I'm referencing.
I do want to say this too before we get out of here. Ross Martin hardest worker in Inside Carolina history? Because people, they see the reporting, they see those types of things, but Ross grew the Instagram account to like 50,000 followers. He's sending out the newsletter every morning at 6 a.m. Part of this job too is being on at all times. So Ross is working all hours of the day. So kudos, Ross, for all the hard work over the years. You've done a great job on the beat.
And I had a random thought too. Think about this. Think about Ross Martin last year at the Final Four was interviewing the governor of North Carolina for IC. I mean, in addition to all the other content he was pumping out about basketball and, playing Duke, playing Kansas, he's got a jacket on. He's talking to Roy Cooper.
I had COVID during that interview.
Wow.
I was interviewing the top governmental official for North Carolina. With COVID. I didn't know I had COVID, but I had COVID. I tested positive on Monday.
Maybe he gave it to you.
Possible. That's a great point, Don.
Yeah.
Let the record show that. Hey, and I appreciate it, John. Yeah, people don't see everything that all of us do. There's a lot of stuff that all of us do that no one sees. John's running our YouTube account. No one sees that. I've helped run the Facebook page and Twitter and newsletter and content and stuff. And there's a lot of stuff we all do that no one sees behind the scenes. No one knows what Ben does. And I would think Ben is the most important part of Ben Sherman is the most important part of Inside Carolina. So we all do things that no one sees. And I'll say this, Adam brought out the fact that he was on that notepad writing and scribbling notes. And I was like, it's on the internet. I didn't have any journalism experience. This has been, I didn't take a single journalism class. It was just kind of I always wanted to work in sports. I always read the sports, the paper growing up, and always wanted to work for ESPN like a lot of people do. And so working in sports media was a dream. But I didn't do it in school. I kind of regret that. I got into it late. People don't know I was a school teacher for 1 year. I taught 8th grade U.S. history and basketball. Quit that, and then the next job I had after driving Lyft for a couple months.
What type of teacher were you?
Not a good one. I don't know. It was probably the worst year of my life.
It was 10 years ago, and those students are still recovering. So we have to be careful about how we talk.
Those kids are still in the 8th grade.
They're a class of 2030 now.
Dude, a lot of parents out there, teaching it's all. It is not a fun job, and so our teachers need to be paid more. And
I agree.
You need to be nice to them because they are doing the Lord's work. It's a tough job. Everything's done to the minute, whatever. But it's and so I took an internship at 24/7 Sports. It was a paid internship, but I was kind of taking a little risk there and worked my way up. And it was just I was hustling, man. It was like Don said, when I went places, I asked people questions. I was trying to get any information I could. I was trying to learn. I made tons of mistakes on the way up, but it was very lucky. Things worked out to get to Inside Carolina, which is one of the top places, which is where you want to be. If you're covering UNC, I would think you want to be at Inside Carolina. So it's been a good run. And I may be back. I may be back somewhere in North Carolina covering something. So I'm not closing the door on anything. I'm not closing the door on Inside Carolina. I would welcome to come back on the podcast, any podcasts, guest appearance here and there, open for that. Not going to do a Greg thing where you're leaving, but you're still very, very involved. There's not going to be a column up for me every Tuesday, but I'm happy to come on whenever you need.
Maybe we could do like a top 5.
What's that?
Have you come in and do a top 5.
Sure. We used to do that. But I'll stay locked in. I love watching UNC basketball and football, so I'll be watching everything and following it from Michigan. So I appreciate y'all, and it's been a good run. It's been fun.
Yeah, we will let that be the end of it. Like people in the chat asking, who's going to do everything when Ross Martin leaves? Well, Ben Sherman, Buck Sanders, and that crowd have been figuring that out. It will go on. Adam Smith, get your travel agent certificate. It's on you now, brother. A lot of big trips coming up. Don Callahan, thank you for joining us from the cave. Definitely a cave. John Bowman, as always, doing what you do. And Ross, appreciate everything you've done. Safe travels. I think we need to do a podcast live from a Thai prison.
Didn't you say that, Don?
I said that. The problem is that no one's heard our podcast yet. But yes, that was my original idea. Have him come in, not a Thai prison, but
Hey, send me Send me a StreamYard link, and I'll see where I am. If I might be in some, fish market in downtown Bangkok or something. We'll
What's the
see.
It'd be
time
great.
difference?
It'd be
Do
great
we
if
know
we
the
got
time
you on
difference?
while you're kidnapped.
It's like 12 hours, isn't it? Time difference.
Dude,
It's
I don't
like
even. The
opposite.
time is weird because
It is.
you're all the way across the country. I think they're ahead of us.
Yeah.
They're definitely ahead, but I didn't know how far.
But at some point, when you get ahead, you almost get behind.
And once
This
you
is
cross
getting
the
trippy,
you cross the line over there. But yeah, we'll definitely do that. That'll be hilarious. That'll be make for some good summer shows. Ross Martin, Adam Smith, Don Callahan, special guest appearance, John Bowman. I'm Tommy Ashley. It's been On the Beat Live. Like we said, the beat goes on. We'll talk at y'all again sometime soon. Thanks, everybody.